Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, coming up in the next hour. Trump takes a 30-day pause for imposing tariffs on Canada and Mexico after due ashore border checks and clamp down on drug trafficking. EU chief says will respond if unfairly targeted by the US after a meeting in Brussels. Also agreed to step up defense efforts against Russia and other threats by filing capability gaps. Donald Trump says there are no guarantees that ceasefire will hold ahead of bilateral meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Next phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal to be discussed. Eastern Congo Rebel Alliance, including the M23, declares unilateral ceasefire from February 4th, says it has no intention of expanding footprints after taking control of the key city of Goma. And on to the details this hour. U.S. President Donald Trump delayed the start of tariffs on Mexico and Canada for a month on Monday after the U.S. neighbors struck last-minute deals to tighten border measures against the flow of migrants and the drug fentanyl. Trump, in a social media post, has confirmed that the U.S. is halting its plan to impose tariffs on Canadian imports in exchange for Canada doing more to prevent illegal drugs from entering the U.S. Mexico has also reached a similar understanding with the U.S. Trump said that the talks on final deals would continue with both countries. While Canada will appoint a fentanyl czar, Mexico will send 10,000 troops to the border as part of the deal with Trump.
We reached an agreement. It is in the agreement we published to place more National Guard in the northern border in order to protect the border and prevent drug trafficking, especially fentanyl trafficking from Mexico to the U.S.
Well, the pause allows time for negotiations on drug smuggling and illegal immigration. Both Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum said they had agreed to bolster border enforcement efforts in response to Trump's demand to crack down on immigration and drug smuggling. That would pause 25% tariffs due to take effect on Tuesday for 30 days. While U.S. tariffs on China are still expected to go into effect at 12:01 EST on Tuesday, that is 5:01 GMT, after Trump announced a 10% tariff on the country's imported goods over the weekend. Tariffs on goods from Canada and Mexico were paused for a month after Trump held phone calls with the leaders of the two countries. No such deal has emerged from China on Monday. However, Trump said last-minute talks between Washington and Beijing were likely to be held probably in the next 24 hours to avoid new tariffs on Chinese imports. He described the 10% import tariff as the opening salvo and said that the tariffs could be very, very substantial if no agreement is made. Meanwhile, on the immigration front, U.S. security forces stand guard near the border wall with Mexico as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth visits the city. Hegseth was joined by the White House border czar Tom Homan, and both officials met with troops charged with the objective of achieving operational control of the border. The Pentagon chief's first trip to the southern border comes as Trump declared a national emergency under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act on Saturday. Citing the extraordinary threat from fentanyl and illegal immigration, on its part, Mexico has agreed to reinforce its northern border with 10,000 National Guard members to stem the flow of illegal migration and drugs.
Because of President Trump's deft ability to negotiate, we now have 10,000 Mexican troops that are going to be patrolling on the other side of the border, so there's cooperation with Mexico as well. Over time, when we're able to build the border wall as well as the president has said he will do, operational control looks different than just constant manpower, but this is the phase that we're in right now.
Besides, the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has reached a migration deal with El Salvador, agreeing to accept migrants of any nationality who are deported from the U.S. and keep them in its jails. There is virtually no precedent in contemporary times for a democratic country to send its own citizens to foreign jails. But Rubio said President Bukele, who has launched a sweeping crackdown on crime that has won him popularity at home, offered to do just that in their meeting earlier in the day. Rubio said that the prison transfer would focus on members of Latin American gangs such as El Salvador's MS-13 and Venezuela's Tren de Aragua, who have acquired U.S. citizenship. And Europe must act with urgency, scale up its defense and security capabilities, and become a true security provider. This was the key message that emerged from the meeting of European Union leaders at an extraordinary informal summit in Brussels. Speaking at a press conference at the end of the informal summit, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the bloc wants a constructive dialogue with the United States, but is ready to respond firmly if it is unfairly targeted by the new Trump administration.
Against the backdrop that we know that there is a lot at stake, we discussed ways to strengthen a very pragmatic cooperation with the United States. There are clearly new challenges and growing uncertainties, so the European Union is prepared for a robust but constructive dialogue with the United States. When targeted, unfairly or arbitrarily, the European Union will respond firmly.
While strengthening Europe's defence through collaborative military capabilities was also decided among the member states, elaborating on which German Chancellor Olaf Scholz stressed an urgent need to build a resilient, self-sufficient European defence industry.
I advocate that all European countries should not spend 2% of their economic output on defence, and that at the same time we do everything we can to create the conditions for a strong European defence industry.
Well, the issue of territorial integrity of Denmark also came up during the discussion, on which European Council President Antonio Costa said reserving it is essential for all European Union member states. Polish Prime Minister echoed Costa's comments.
Preserving the territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark, its sovereignty and the inviolability of its borders is essential for all member states. And the European Union fully supports the Kingdom of Denmark.
The words of solidarity towards Denmark were also important, and I only saw that we all are collectively in unison supported Denmark, and we are all aware of the consequences that we might face as a community. It's very important that our words are not empty about that solidarity, and that we show solidarity with acts, not just words.
Well, NATO chief Mark Rutte says tensions between Europe and the United States over trade issues under President Donald Trump will not affect the alliance's collective deterrence. Speaking at a press conference in Brussels on Monday, Rutte also dismissed any notion that Europe could abandon its security relationship with the U.S. NATO Secretary General said a European defense strategy without Washington would be a silly thought.
Yeah, but that means that you have European defense without the US being involved. That's what you're saying. That is a NATO or whatever the organization is then called without the US. For many reasons that will not work.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said his country is not choosing between either the United States or the European Union, stressing it was important to work with both partners on areas such as trade and security.
Both of these relations are very important to us. We are not choosing between them, but that's historically been the position of the UK for many, many decades now. We face a more volatile world now than we have done for many decades, so now is the time to step up on all fronts with both the US and the EU. It is not the time to pull back on either front.
Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump will discuss the future of the Gaza ceasefire on Tuesday as the Israeli Prime Minister becomes the first foreign leader to visit the White House since the U.S. president's return to power. Netanyahu is in Washington for talks with the Trump administration on a second, longer-term phase of Israel's truce with Hamas, which has not yet been finalized. However, Trump has expressed caution, stating that there are no guarantees the fragile ceasefire will hold. Trump, who claims credit for brokering the ceasefire deal, says negotiations with Israel and other West Asian countries are progressing. Trump's Middle East envoy, Steve Witkoff, who met Netanyahu on Monday over terms for the second phase of the Gaza truce, said, however, that he was certainly hopeful that the truce would stick. Hamas officials have said they were ready to begin talks on the details of the second phase, which is expected to cover the release of the remaining captives and could lead to a more permanent end to the war. And the U.S. Agency for International Development headquarters was abruptly closed to staff on Monday, marking the latest development in a controversial takeover bid by billionaire Elon Musk, who has been appointed by U.S. President Trump to lead a federal cost-cutting initiative. More in this report.
The U.S. government's giant humanitarian agency closed its headquarters to staff on Monday amid moves by Elon Musk to seize control. Workers at the U.S. Agency for International Development were told to stay out of its Washington office after its website went dark over the weekend, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio announcing Monday it would come under his control. The move sparked protests and vows from Democratic senators to block State Department nominee confirmations. Trump ordered a freeze on most U.S. foreign aid on January 20th, halting hundreds of life-saving aid programs worldwide. Billionaire Elon Musk has targeted USAID for closure. Trump considers merging USAID into the State Department, with Musk overseeing efficiency. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been appointed as USAID's acting director, says the agency needs State Department direction.
There are a lot of functions of USAID that are going to continue, that are going to be part of American foreign policy, but it has to be aligned with American foreign policy. Their attitude is, we don't have to answer to you because we are independent, we answer to no one. Well, that's not true, and that will no longer be the case.
Elon Musk's attempted takeover of USAID has sparked intense controversy. Staffers were locked out of their computer systems and Democrats were denied entry into the headquarters. Around 50 demonstrators protested outside USAID headquarters on Monday.
Unelected shadow government is conducting a hostile takeover of the federal government. Last Friday, DOJ forcefully gained access to the Treasury Department's payment systems and to the most sensitive information of virtually every U.S. citizen.
Maybe you get paid, or maybe you don't, because now it appears that all of us work for Elon Musk. Elon just grabbed the controls of our whole payment system, demanding the power to turn it on for his friends or turn it off for anyone he doesn't like.
The South African-born billionaire has taken control over the U.S. Treasury's payment systems that manages trillions of dollars. He single-handedly announced the demise of the USAID humanitarian agency and helped drive out top officials. Trump sought to play down the issue on Monday.
Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval, and we'll give him the approval where appropriate. Where not appropriate, we won't. But he reports in, and it's something that he feels very strongly about, and I'm impressed because he's running, obviously, a big company. It has nothing to do, if there's a conflict, that we won't let him get near it.
Critics have denounced Musk's actions as plain illegal, citing his lack of background checks and confirmation process. Democrats, who have been largely silent during Trump's first shock and awe 2 weeks in power, have now begun to mobilize against the latest Musk moves. Antara Sinha for DD India.
Well, India will have a minimal impact if the Trump administration shuts the U.S. aid program due to its booming economic growth. U.S. aid began operating in India about 70 years ago, but India now has transformed from a mere aid recipient to its partner for global impact by helping other countries, especially in the Indo-Pacific region. In the current fiscal year, India was slated to receive $140 million through U.S. aid, a relatively small amount compared to India's overall budget of over $600 billion. With its economy surging, India is well positioned to weather any potential changes to U.S. aid's operations. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Foreseeing Syria as a republic with a parliament and an executive government, Syria's Shura hints that the election process could take 4 or 5 years. Uganda begins the first ever vaccination trial for the Sudan species of the Ebola virus. And festive fervor gripped Vietnam as the Asian nation celebrates annual Huang Pagoda festival.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on, President Donald Trump has said that he wants Ukraine to supply the U.S. with rare earth mineral. Trump touted the Ukraine's rare earth minerals as compensation for Washington's financial support of its conflict efforts against Russia. Trump said Ukraine was willing and emphasized that he wants equalization for the close to $300 billion in aid. It was unclear whether he was using the term rare earths broadly to include all critical minerals or strictly referring to rare earth elements.
Telling Ukraine they have very valuable rare earth. We want what we put up to go in terms of a guarantee. We want a guarantee. We're handing them money hand over fist. We're giving them equipment. So we're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things.
Meanwhile, U.S. shipments of weapons into Ukraine were briefly paused in recent days before resuming over the weekend as the Trump administration debated its policy towards Kyiv. There are factions inside the administration that are at odds over the extent to which the U.S. should continue to aid Kyiv's war efforts with weapons from U.S. stocks. It is unclear if the Trump administration will formally acknowledge the pause and subsequent resumption of shipments. In his final months in office, Biden approved an average more than $1 billion in U.S. weapons pulled from U.S. stocks for Ukraine, even more if new contracts for future production are included. And Polish Defense Ministry officials and representatives of weapon manufacturers arrived in Kyiv on Monday to promote cooperation and discuss possible joint ventures with Ukraine's defense sector. Poland's Deputy Defense Minister, Cezary Tomczyk, said the mission that took place for the first time since the very beginning of the conflict was a huge mistake. Tomczyk said, for the past several months, we have been preparing this economic mission to correct this mistake, to present our sales offer.
We also want to make the best use of Ukrainian military experience, which is huge. An incredible amount of information flows from the Ukrainian-Russian battlefield, and we want to do all possible to be able to use it for the benefit of Polish arms industry, to apply all the experience and knowledge.
Well, in some other updates related to Ukraine, International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi is visiting Kyiv to inspect a key substation that is critical for the safety of Ukraine's nuclear power. In his 11th visit to Ukraine since the conflict began, Grossi will visit Kyivska substation to assess damage and help prevent a nuclear accident. In September, Ukraine and the IAEA agreed that the agency's experts would monitor the situation at key Ukrainian substations in addition to monitoring nuclear plants. More than half of the electricity consumed in Ukraine is generated by 3 nuclear power plants, but Russian missile and drone attacks on substations threaten the stable operation of nuclear power plants. And authorities in Moldova's separatist Transnistria region have lifted month-long power cuts and begun restoring heat to homes on Monday, bringing much-needed relief to the region's residents. The restoration of services follows the resumption of natural gas flows with funding provided by the European Union. Transnistria, a self-proclaimed breakaway region in Moldova, had previously relied on Russian natural gas that passed through Ukraine. However, after Kyiv decided not to extend the gas transit agreement past the new year, the region faced an acute energy crisis as Ukraine made this decision as part of its broader strategy to reduce its support for Russia amid the ongoing invasion of Ukraine, which is now nearing its 3rd year. Residents expressed relief at the return of normal daily life in the region. Well, Syrians may have to wait for another 5 years for elections to take place in the country. This was announced by its leader, Ahmed al-Shara, just after the week he was appointed interim president. It has been less than 2 months since Bashar al-Assad was ousted. In a pre-recorded interview broadcast on a private Syrian television channel on Monday, al-Shara said that the election process could take 4 or 5 years, saying the infrastructure for the vote needs to be re-established and that will take time, though he also promised a law regulating political parties, adding that Syria would be a republic with the parliament and an executive government. Shara was also tasked with forming an interim legislature as the Assad-era parliament was dissolved, along with the Ba'ath Party, which ruled Syria for decades. Syria's constitution was also repealed, and the Assad-era army and security forces were dissolved. A transitional government has been installed to steer Syria until 1st of March. His appointment has been welcomed by key regional players, Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. And the Eastern Congo Rebel Alliance, known as Congo River Alliance, has declared a ceasefire for humanitarian reasons starting on the 4th of February. The alliance, that includes the M23, said that it has no intention of capturing Bukavu, South Kivu's provincial capital, after it seized Congo's largest eastern city of Goma last week. The Congo River Alliance has accused the Congolese military of killing people using aircrafts to bomb areas it holds. It added it does not intend to seize any further territory, despite saying otherwise last week, and it will hold its positions. The ceasefire announcement by the M23 rebels came shortly after the UN Health Agency said at least 900 people were killed in last week's fighting in Goma between the rebels and Congolese forces. Well, the conflict has displaced around 500,000 people, raising fears of regional instability and prompting calls from the Congolese government for international sanctions against Rwanda for its alleged support of M23. Meanwhile, human rights groups have been calling for more pressure on Rwanda to back down. The DR Congo's communications minister called for the international community to impose sanctions on Rwanda.
The world or the international community cannot not react on what Rwanda is doing in the eastern part of DRC. They've been killing peacekeeper from United Nations. They killed soldier from SADC.
All right, and now let's go live across to the India International Center here in New Delhi, where India's External Affairs Dr. S. Jaishankar is delivering his keynote address.
You all at the second IIC Bruegel annual seminar. Such exchanges are valuable at any time, more so in the current ones. Discussing trade amidst geopolitics, climate action and governance, and digital economy and AI are natural topics at this time. I wish you well in your discussions over the next 2 days, and I thank you for the opportunity to present my own thoughts. Let me start with trade and politics before I come to geopolitics. For many years, large sections of the global intelligentsia have been in denial about the impact of the current model of globalized trade on societies and economies. Openness and interlinkages were lauded as values in themselves, deliberately ignoring that free trade was increasingly less and less fair trade. The pervasiveness of non-market factors in global manufacturing has fundamentally altered the very structures on which global consensus was built. The perception grew that the trading system has been gamed for the benefit of a few. It was therefore no surprise, except for those in denial, that there would be a political backlash. Some of it is voiced in terms of stagnating quality of life, some in employment challenges, and the rest in a frustration of an inability to compete against state support and subsidies. It was easy to give a cultural twist to these insecurities as well. So whether we go back to the Brexit, look at the political happenings in many other nations, including yours, or now consider the return of the Trump administration, let us appreciate that these consequences actually have causes. Let me now turn to trade and geopolitics. We are witnessing a serious over-concentration of manufacturing in a limited geography. This has many ramifications. On the one hand, there are supply chain vulnerabilities of various kinds. The world experienced that during the COVID pandemic. Such stresses continue to be aggravated by conflicts or by extreme climate events. At the same time, there has also been a leveraging of market shares and dependence, be it in production and consumption or in resources, goods and services. The domain of finance has seen similar developments that emanate from the salience of a few players. For the rest of the world, there are lessons to be learnt. It is no accident that the discourse thereafter has focused intensively on de-risking the international economy. Diversifying production and building more resilient and reliable supply chains have emerged as a priority. The digital world carries its own share of challenges. It is paradoxical that many of us are so focused on data privacy and data security at home. But how concerned are we at the harvesting and deployment of this beyond our shores? What began as a debate when 5G technology started to be introduced is now a full-blown issue in the AI era. The imperatives of trust and transparency have come to the fore. In terms of geopolitics, they have also added an additional layer of complexity. A few words about climate governance and actions. The continuing disappointment of the Global South about the lack of resources for a transition is not a secret. With the passage of time, it has only further aggravated. Global gatherings have become an exercise in creative accounting rather than in solution finding. Far from making green and clean technologies accessible and affordable, the trend suggests protectionism in the name of climate. The developed world also appears indifferent to the dire predicament of the Global South in the aftermath of the COVID. That the shortfall in achieving SDG targets is eliciting so little attention today speaks volumes. Our own experience in chairing the G20 revealed how difficult it was to even get adequate attention on this basket of issues. To all this, let me add a few words about geopolitics itself. The world is currently witnessing two major conflicts. These are often presented as matters of principle. We are told that the very future of the world order is at stake. Yet, the record shows how selectively and unevenly these principles have been applied. We, in India, have yet to see aggression on our territory vacated after so many decades. Equally, terrorism has been overlooked when convenient. In our own continent, international law has been disregarded with significant consequences. Even on a question like democracy and military rule, different standards have been applied to our neighbors in the East and our neighbor in the West. It is not my case that principles are dispensable or that we must be utterly into realpolitik. But the agenda can no longer be set by some, only to be observed by the rest. This applies to passing judgment on and interfering in the domestic politics of others as well. Today, there is much talk about the world order unraveling. The fact is that the consensus which underpinned it has done so well before. There are north-south contradictions as much as there is an east-west divide. In fact, even these broad characterizations are no longer tenable in an era of sharper nationalism. Both the economic and political logic of an earlier era needs refreshing. Much of the architecture will undoubtedly continue because we are too deeply invested in it. But some of it, certainly, perhaps aspects that are critical and sensitive, will be more nationally driven. We are truly entering a time of multipolarity and rebalancing. The sooner we come to terms with this reality, the better for all of us. Now, these are some of the questions that India and the European Union confront today. It is important that as we reflect on appropriate policies and responses, there is a quest for convergence as well as an honesty in conversations. We clearly have common interests and shared values. There may be some differences on priorities and specifics, but what binds us is a sentiment much stronger. At the end of the day, we are political democracies, pluralistic societies, and market economies. As we each take stock of the changes underway, it is likely that our meeting points will increase. Moreover, in a world that promises to be so volatile and so uncertain, a stronger India-EU relationship can be an important stabilizing factor. India is certainly cognizant of the greater strategic awakening of Europe in the last few years. That too can serve as a driver of deeper engagement. We already see that happening, for example, in closer defense and security and technology cooperation. The bottom line is that our India-EU, that is, our relationship is more important than ever before. So how do we make this contemporary template work better for both of us? To a great extent, the answer lies in ensuring that the established processes, platforms, and mechanisms deliver effectively. In recent years, there has been a more intensive engagement with the European Commission. We expect that to be even more in the coming days, in fact, very soon. Our maritime security and defense cooperation has also increased, collectively or with individual EU members. The Indo-Pacific strategy and global gateway are certainly steps in the right direction. On the FTA, I think it is really time we get along with it. We established the Trade and Technology Council to deal with control technologies and digital transactions. Our interactions today extend from disaster resilience and clean technologies to sustainable urbanization and infrastructure development. The European Union, I remind you, is India's largest economic partner. But beyond resources and technology, it is also valued for its best practices. In diplomatic platforms, we have also built a tradition of cooperation. I would single out the G20 in particular. There is also much that is happening bilaterally with EU nations. I draw your attention to the importance of nurturing and attracting talent in view of its economic relevance. One particular initiative that I believe merits your attention is the IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor. It has admittedly been slowed by the developments in the Middle East from October 2023. However, some initial steps have indeed commenced between India and Gulf nations. The game-changing nature of this enterprise needs to be appreciated, not just between India and Europe as its two ends. Bear in mind that we in India are simultaneously seeking to build land connectivity eastwards through Southeast Asia. Put together, this is actually an Atlantic to Pacific endeavor. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me conclude by saying this. We can all feel intuitively that the world is on the cusp of a very big change. Politics is only the tip of the iceberg. Whether it is energy or connectivity, mobility or technology, major shifts await us. After all, we are entering the era of AI and EV, of drones and space, of green hydrogen and SMRs, and many more things besides. A deeper India-EU collaboration is clearly to our mutual benefit. It cannot happen by itself. It needs proponents, it needs advocates, and I hope that your gathering at this time will increase that number and make this case more energetically and effectively in Europe as much as in India. I thank you for your attention.
Well, we were watching live from India International Centre in New Delhi, where India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar was addressing the India International Centre Bruegel Annual Seminar 2025. This 1.5-day closed-door workshop will focus on key aspects of India-EU relations and of the international order that are of common concern, that are trade, climate governance and the digital economy. He spoke about climate governance also. He said that the very future of the world order was in danger and international law has been disregarded even in our continent. He said, nevertheless, we are political democracies, pluralistic societies, and a stronger India-EU relationship can be a balancing factor and is more important than ever before. And we should ensure all mechanisms are delivered effectively. He said the world is at the cusp of very big change as we are entering the era of artificial intelligence and green hydrogen, and a deeper relationship between India and EU is for mutual benefit. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Discussion on President's address to continue in both houses of Indian Parliament during the budget session. India's Home Minister Amit Shah to chair a review meeting on the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir. And Bhutan's King Jigme Khesar Namgyal Wangchuk to take a holy dip at Triveni Sangam in Prayagraj. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. And time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Trump takes a 30-day pause for imposing tariffs on Canada and Mexico after due ashore border checks and clamp down on truck trafficking. EU chief says will respond if unfairly targeted by the US after a meeting in Brussels. Also agree to step up defense efforts against Russia and other threats by filling capability gaps. Donald Trump says there are no guarantees that ceasefire will hold ahead of bilateral meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Next phase of the Gaza ceasefire deal to be discussed. Eastern Congo Rebel Alliance, including the M23, declares unilateral ceasefire from February 4th, says it has no intention of expanding footprints after taking control of the key city of Goma. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will respond to the motion of thanks in the Lok Sabha or the lower house of parliament today, while he will reply in the Rajya Sabha, that is the upper house, on the 6th of February. The ongoing budget session continues to witness intense debates and sharp exchanges between the government and the opposition over Kumbh Mela mishap and various other issues. And today, on the fourth day of the session, the debate on the motion of thanks is listed for post-0 hour and question hour, while after the debate concludes, Prime Minister Modi will give reply. And India's Home Minister Amit Shah will chair a review meeting on the security situation in Jammu and Kashmir on Tuesday. The Home Minister is expected to discuss the status of the zero-tolerance policy against terrorism and the ongoing operations against terrorists. During the last review meeting on December 19, 2024, Amit Shah directed all security agencies to continue working in a coordinated manner to eliminate terrorism in Jammu and Kashmir. Also, the government has maintained that there is a significant decline in terrorist incidents, infiltration and recruitment of youth in terrorist organizations. Security forces last week launched a massive operation in Jammu and Kashmir, mostly in the high reaches and forest areas along the line of control, to locate and eliminate terrorists who carried out multiple attacks in different districts last year. Well, the campaigning for the Delhi Assembly polls ended on Monday evening. Now, the voting for the 70 Assembly seats of Delhi will be held on the 5th of February in a single phase to elect the new government in the national capital. The results for Delhi election will be announced on 8th of February. With the campaigning coming to a close, the mandatory silence period came into effect. Delhi police is conducting flag march and security sweep ahead of the voting. The poll panel has prohibited the release of exit polls till 6:30 p.m. on February 5th, the day of voting. Any results of exit polls will be released only after 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday, as many as 1.56 crore voters are eligible to cast their ballots. Apart from Delhi Assembly election, the by-polls for the Mikipur Assembly seat in Uttar Pradesh and the Erode East Assembly seat in Tamil Nadu are also scheduled for the 5th of February. And Secretary General of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Nurlan Yermakbayev, arrived in New Delhi on Tuesday on his first official visit to India. During his visit, Yermakbayev will meet External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Shankar and Minister of State for External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh. He will also address the Indian Council of World Affairs. Earlier, EAM S. Shankar signed 8 outcome documents highlighting India's contributions during the 23rd SCO Council of Heads of Government meeting in Islamabad on October 16, 2024. And now to all the latest from the Mahakumbh, the largest gathering of humans anywhere on the planet. Well, the third and last Amrit Snan of the ongoing Mahakumbh Mela 2025 concluded on Monday with more than 12.5 million devotees taking a holy dip on the occasion of Basant Panchami. Tight security measures were in place, ensuring a safe and orderly experience for all. According to the official, an extensive police and security arrangement was put in place across the Mahakumbh fair area to ensure a smooth and secure bathing experience for devotees, saints, Mahatmas and Kalpvasis. And in India, Siddharth Bharadwaj tells us more from Prayagraj.
It was third and final Amrit Snan of the Mahakumbh 2025, the largest religious gathering on the planet, where about 2.33 crore people took dip in the Triveni Sangam, the confluence of river Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati. And today as well, even if the Amrit Snan has ended, the tourists and pilgrims and devotees are thronging in the Kumbh Mela 2025 in Prayagraj in large numbers to take holy dip. There are elaborate security measures that have been put in place, including 7-layer security system and AI integrated CCTV cameras to monitor every place, every corner of the Kumbh Mela premises. These CCTV cameras are integrated with the AI technology that also has database, and any suspicious activity can be easily tracked and further action could be taken. When we had a word with people, they say that this is the most amazing moment in their life because of the alignment which has come after 144 years and also known as Purn Mahakumbh. People are saying that no matter how much they have to walk, but they would take dip in the Triveni Sangam, which is again the confluence of Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati. People here are just coming not from the parts of country, but also the international devotees and pilgrims are also coming, and they are saying that when they take dip in the Triveni Sangam, it feels like they have become immortal and the most precious moment of their life. In fact, the interesting part is this, that students from the renowned universities from all across the world, including Oxford and Harvard, are doing research on the fact that how such a large gathering is, being organized in such a smooth line manner. So all in all, the security arrangements are elaborate to make sure that these devotees who are coming here in Prayagraj, in Mahakumbh 2025, their journey remains peaceful, safe and secure. With camera person Mohan Mukesh Sharma, this is Siddharth Bhardwaj reporting for DD India in Prayagraj.
And moreover, Bhutanese King Jigme Khesar Namgyel Wangchuk arrived in northern state of Uttar Pradesh on Monday to visit the Mahakumbh. The King of Bhutan will visit the holy gathering on Tuesday, where he will take a holy dip at the Triveni Sangam and offer prayers at the sacred site. Earlier, the Bhutanese king met with UP's Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath. Upon arrival, the king's envoy was greeted with traditional music and dance at Lucknow airport. The Mahakumbh 2025, which commenced on January 13th, will continue until 26th of February. The event has already attracted millions of devotees from across the country and around the world. Well, February 4th marks the World Cancer Day. It is the day time to reflect on the global burden of cancer as well as to celebrate advancements in screenings that have resulted in decreased mortality from the second leading cause of death worldwide. Nearly 20 million new cancer cases are diagnosed annually, with about 9.7 million deaths, according to the most recent statistics published through the World Health Organization. This means that about 1 in 5 individuals will develop cancer at some point in their lifetime. Worldwide, lung cancer also remains the deadliest cancer, followed by colorectal cancer and liver cancer. To create awareness on Cancer Day, Indian sand artist Manas Sahu made sand art at Puri Lighthouse in eastern state of Odisha. Well, several Indian celebrities lauded India's flagship program like Ayushman Bharat that played a vital role in effective treatment and early diagnosis of cancer. This initiative covers critical diagnostic services, enabling patients of all socio-economic status to assess timely and comprehensive testing.
Bharat and PMJ are changing the game. These programs are making cancer treatment more accessible and affordable for millions of families across India, easing the financial burden and giving hope.
On World Cancer Day, I want to commend the Ayushman Bharat and PMJ initiative for making timely cancer treatment accessible to so many, regardless of their financial background. Cancer is a journey that really does test your strength, resilience, and faith. Early diagnosis and affordable treatment is, however, key to survival, and thanks to such government schemes, millions can now hope for a better future.
Today on World Cancer Day, I want to talk about a harsh reality. Cancer affects millions of lives every year, and late detection often makes treatment a daunting challenge. Early detection is crucial in the fight against cancer, but for many, access to quality healthcare has been a significant barrier. That's why initiatives like Ayushman Bharat are game changers. By providing accessible and affordable healthcare, countless families can now seek timely cancer treatment and, crucially important, early detection.
And you're watching DT India News Hour. Time now for some sports news. The National Games 2025 are underway in full swing in the Indian state of Uttarakhand. Karnataka currently leads the medal tally with 22 gold medals along with 10 silver and 10 bronze. Services holds the second spot with 19 gold, 12 silver and 9 bronze medals. Maharashtra and Manipur are also in strong contention. Host state Uttarakhand is ranked 19th, having won 17 medals. So far, athletes from 24 teams have claimed at least one gold medal in the competition. And for more on this, we have Narayan Singh joining us from Dehradun. Well, Narayan, several athletes have delivered outstanding performances and the competition is underway in full swing as well. What all is planned for today?
Good morning, Lipakshi. The way things are happening here in Uttarakhand at the 38th edition of the National Games, as you mentioned, records are breaking, multiple new national records are creating. If we talk about in weightlifting, the way Vaishnav Thakur of Maharashtra created new national record in the snatch, even lifting the 160 kg in the snatch, and he broke the previous record set by the Jagdish Vishwakarma, and same in the shooting event too, the way Dramita Jindal created world record in the qualification of the 10-meter air rifle event, and the shooting too, the way Dinidhi Deshangu of Karnataka broke the national record, previous national record in 400-meter freestyle event. So all in all, every day we are witnessing multiple new records, new national records are being created here in Uttarakhand in the National Games. And the most important thing here is that the athletes are getting a unique environment to perform, especially in the hill state of Uttarakhand, and the temperature is quite great. And because we know that the climate plays a crucial role in the performance of the player. When we talk to coaches, when we talk to players, they said that the climate is here like the European condition, and when they go to the condition like the European countries, definitely it will help them to acclimatize such condition and perform in the such weather condition. All in all, we can say that a fantastic display of talent is here, and most importantly that the athletes are getting exposure. If you take a look at the National Games, the athletes of the international fame are also participating in shooting. There are many athletes, many shooters who played Olympics, and the new athletes are also taking guidance from them. Same in the lawn ball event, where the international medal winners like Navneet Singh are there. So they are taking, the young players are taking tips from them. So a great platform for the athletes.
Right, absolutely. Thank you so much, Narayan, for all those details from there. An Indian chess grandmaster, R. Pragananda, arrived at Chennai airport on Tuesday morning after winning the Tata Steel Masters 2025 in Netherlands. Pragananda held his fort against reigning world champion D. Gukesh for a come-from-behind win in the tie breaks to claim the title. Pragananda showed perfect technique to take the full point and his maiden victory at the Masters. For Gukesh, this was the second year running when he tied the first position and lost the tie-breaker. An Australian cricketer, Michael Bevan, has been inducted in the Australian Cricket Hall of Fame. Bevan is widely regarded as one of the greatest white ball players of all time. He was the world's top-ranked one-day international batter for 1,259 consecutive days between 1999 and 2002. He played 232 one-day internationals, scoring 6,912 runs, including 6 centuries and 48 half-centuries. He was a member of Australia's 1999 and 2003 World Cup winning teams. And Premier League club Tottenham Hotspur have signed French forward Mathys Tel from Bayern Munich on a loan deal until the end of this season. Tel joined Bayern from Stade Rennes in 2022 on a 4-year deal and extended his contract to 2029 in March last year. He has scored 16 goals in 83 appearances for the German club, but has struggled to find a place in the starting side. Now Tottenham have an option to make the deal permanent at the end of the season. Spurs are 14th in the Premier League standings, and their next game is a League Cup semi-final second leg tie at Liverpool on Thursday. And 40 light installations scattered around Copenhagen brightened the Danish capital amidst the ongoing light festival that opened on the 31st of January. Light treasure hunts, concerts, a silent disco and a light run will also take place during the festival. The festival, which runs until 23rd of February, is the largest light art festival in Europe in number of artworks on display. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.